नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्य वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवद्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः। नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यश्छन्दसामृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः। अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिवा कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमितमस्मि द्रविणगुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यात् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्। अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मात् ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य मानि स्थः अन्मे अनेनाधितेन अहोरात्रान् संदधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि उन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं नो अपि वातय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो ब्रह्मानं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं हदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Number 7. न अन्तः प्रज्ञं न बहिष्प्रज्ञं नोभयतः प्रज्ञं न प्रज्ञानघनं न प्रज्ञं नाप्रज्ञं अदृष्टं अव्यवहार्यं अग्राह्यं अलक्षणं अचिन्त्यं अव्यपदेश्यं एकात्मप्रत्ययसारं प्रपञ्च उपशमं शान्तं शिवम् अद्वैतं चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः. So in this important mantra, both the negative and the positive aspects of the whole creation is pointed out. The negative in the sense, not negative in the negativity of our thinking, I think is the way better to look at it. I would say this, that the way our creation is, the way our life is, the way we have our experiences and so on, it is very much like the a sea which is acting up, which has a lot of activity in terms of surf and waves and forms, little droplets coming out of the water and then going back into it. So that kind of a kind of like a activity on the surface. a huge amount of activity in terms of having storms that disturb the equanimity of the water and so on and so forth. So this is what our life is. And what we do is we are playing on the surface. We're playing on this activity of the water on the surface. And this is what our whole life is all about. In a very elaborate, very sophisticated manner, kind of like a dream, where you have seemingly a lot of activity. And this is what creation can be. How else can creation be? But in this particular case, the creation is in the form of a lot of surface-like activity. So similarly, in our life also, what we do is we take a birth. It's kind of like a wave being born, and then we stay on the surface, dealing with people and situations, and so on and so forth. And for a while, it seems like fun, but then as problems appear in our life, and also particularly later parts of our life, when we begin to feel that, my gosh, you know, this was all okay, but then where am I going? What's happening to me? And all of that. Then the Upanishad points out that really what you should do while you have your mind and your awareness in control of yourself, while you're living, you should begin to see that this surface activity really is not who you are. You are the water, you are the very ocean. And the introduction to this is an introduction to the mahima of the water, of the ocean. The one which is never gone, which was never born, and it is not subject to any changes per se. And if there are some surface-like changes, then enjoy it. It's okay. But your identity should not be on the surface activities. This is what it is. We feel that we are like a wave, and that other waves are bothering us, or that I'm disappearing, or that my body is falling apart, my health is bad, my experiences are not all the things I want to do. This is all surface activities. And so the Upanishad points out, so by saying na antah pragyam, na bahish pragyam, na ubhayata pragyam, na pragyam, na pragyana ghanam, na apragyam, adrishtam, avyavaharyam. It is simply to shift our focus on the surface activities that are really not profound, in the sense that they are not lasting. And the interesting thing is that they are not different from the water. So in Vedanta, this is a very important concept which you already know about that, but you should know the technical name for it and the phenomena and so on. So this is what is called Vivarta Upadana Karanam. This should be very well understood in your mind. So whenever there is a change, there is a karana karya vyavahara. There is a relationship between cause and effect. So there are different kinds of causes and effects that are there. So for example, there is something which is built up from the beginning. It was not there. So this is what is called parinama karanam. Or there could be something that transforms itself from, let's say, milk to yogurt, where the milkiness is gone and yogurt now comes up. This is another kind of a karana karya. But in the Vedantic thinking, which is important for us to really focus on and keep focusing on it, is what is called Vivarta Upadana Karanam. So in the Vivarta Upadana Karanam, there is a relationship between Karana and Karya, which is something unique. And an example of that is making some pots out of clay or some ornaments out of a metal, something like that. So here what is said is that this is a unique type of change, and the change is what is called Vivarta change. And Vivarta means, the technical definition of Vivarta is Apparityagena Rupantara Apattihi. So Apparityagena means that nothing happens to the clay and yet something happens to the clay where a unique form of something is created. Either you can cup or a saucer. Saucer has its own function. Cup has its own function. Different shapes have their own functions. They all provide, but in all of those changes, the clay or the metal for the ornaments does not change. Does not change. So the whole life, the whole set of experiences that we have should be seen as that type of a creation. In fact, Ishvara's creation is a very unique and a very beautiful one, where the Atma does not change. It has never been there. It will never not be there. There is no possibility of anything not being the Atma. This nothing is nothing but Atma alone. Paramatma alone is there, always, as you and I. It is always the same, but it creates a sort of like a surface-like activity, just like a pot is made out of a clay. And all we are doing is dealing at the surface level. And you're free to do so. This is what we all do. We're just dealing at the surface level. It's like, if water had some consciousness in it. So one conscious wave is throwing water, just like children do, You throw water at each other. And this is what happens when there's a slightly older person and a younger child, brother. So these two kids are playing, and they throw water at each other. But the older one is much stronger. He's able to really inundate the younger one. And the younger one finally says, "Oh, this is enough. I can't do this anymore." So these kinds of plays happen where one wave is attacking the other one. They're playing with each other. All the time, all of these surface things are nothing but the same thing. And it is a matter of just focusing on one thing or the other. And what happens in our life is that so far we are very adept in focusing on the surfacey changing things. And so in the Jagrata Avastha, we have one set of playing things. In our Swapna Avastha, we have a slightly different way of doing things. And then we have a rest. And then we go back again. And in fact, not only that, but really this continues on from one life to the other, this playing. All the time, we do not appreciate that all the surface things are nothing but the profound water that doesn't change. This is the mahima of, so this is where we say that the Jivatma does not understand the profundity of itself, which is nothing but Paramatma. So this is what the Upanishad is trying to tell us by the negation of the first side, na antah pragyam, na bahish pragya, etc. And we have done all of that. Achintyam, avyapadeshyam. We saw all of that last time also. Ekatma pratyaya saram. So now we will go into the positive aspect of it. So the ending, the last thing we did this was avyapadeshyam. So vapadeshyam means that here it cannot be positively communicated. Because positively communicated means that here Swami Maheshananji, and even otherwise I'll borrow something from a bit later on. So let's just look at avyapadeshyam. I just want to look at that part of it. So there, the positive power of communication. The positive power of communication, this is what is called in technical language Shakti Vritti. Shakti Vritti means that you want to convey something, it needs to be relating to something that you know about. This is called Shakti Vritti. So just a second, give me 1 minute. Yeah. So this you may have seen other places also, but I'll bring in at this point. So the pravitti, the Shakti Vritti of shabdas, of words, consist of 4 segments. There are 4 segments. That is called jati, guna, kriya, and sambandha. So jati means the type. A classification is called jati. So here an example is that my friend is a Brahman. Like for doing puja, Brahman is an important person. They say that really technical puja should be done by a Brahman person, one who is born as a Brahman. Others can also do it, but it will be much more effective for a Brahman to do it. Or you can say he's an Indian. My friend is an Indian. So in the definition that my friend is an Indian, you know the people from India, and this particular person is also from that one. So this is called jati. So jati means a classification. Introducing a person through a classification is called jati pravritti. So this is how the power of the words are, that it communicates through a jati. Or guna. Guna, for example, then you can say that that person is very, very calm. I have a friend who's characterized by calmness. Nothing disturbs her. So this is called a guna. Because now everybody understands what a calm person can be. We've had experiences of calmness and the lack thereof, and so we can relate to the guna. So you can describe a person with saying guna, with a calm person. Or you can describe it with kriya. So kriya means what a person does. You can say he's a cook. And that means you know what cooking is. You know that there are people who are employed in the trade of cooking. So you can relate to the person, a cook. So we have covered jati, guna, and kriya. The last one is sambandha, a connection. That she is the daughter of, is called sambandha. So it has been well ascertained and analyzed that other than these four, there is no other way of communicating the Shakti Vritti, a positive identification of something. There is no other way. These are the four ways you can do that. None of them apply to the Atma. Why not? So let's just look at it. So, Atma, there is only one Atma. In the whole creation, there is only one thing, which is Atma. So, the Atma is not part of a jati. It's not like this is Atma number one, Atma number two. We can say Jivatma, which is nothing but Atma itself. But we are not talking about Jivatma, we are talking about Atma. And so there is no way that Atma can be positively identified from a Shakti Vritti standpoint. But what we can do is what is called Lakshana Vritti. These are all technical words, and I think this is an advanced class, so you should get familiar with these kinds of analysis. So the Lakshana Vritti is not a positive identification using jati, guna, kriya or sambandha, but it can still be done through words that finally convey the deeper meaning of what is being said. And here the classical example given in this manner, very interesting example, difficult to see how it even applies, but you can see that supposing you have a new moon, which is very difficult to see, especially early in the evening when there is still some sunlight and you see a little sliver of a moon. So somebody might look at it and say, wow, look at this beautiful moon. And the other person said, where? I don't see it. And they're both sitting outside close to some trees and so on. So the person says, don't you see it? It's right there. He says, no, I don't see it. So he says, okay, do this. You see this trunk of a tree? Okay, go to the left branch and look at a couple of branches on this, do you see that one? He says, yes. Then the person says, aha. So there it is said that the moon was in the middle of two branches. But is it in the middle of two branches? If you go and touch the tree of the branches, you won't find the moon there. So there, the vritti that creates a positive identification of the moon is called Lakshana Vritti. That means that you have some other things that you can talk about, but not directly at that, because otherwise there is no other way to show that. So similarly here also, when you say there is a Jivatma and there is another Jivatma number one. Jivatma number one has a jati. Jivatma number two is there, Jivatma number three is there. These are all part of a jati. But then to say, don't you see, I am conscious, you are conscious, he is conscious, she is conscious. It is the same consciousness. Consciousness does not have a jati, but through the Jivatma, it can be pointed out that it is in fact the Atma which is independent of jivas. So this is what is called a Lakshana Vritti. This is not a Shakti Vritti. Shakti Vritti is Jivatma number 1, Jivatma number 2. Lakshana Vritti is something which you cannot see, but you can now see from this explanation that it is really the same consciousness. And we ended the last class by saying Avyapadeshyam. Avyapadeshyam. And I was telling you that I gave you a couple of examples. I'll finish by revising that, then we'll cover new ground today. That both Swami Maheshananji and Swami Dayanandji, I was telling you about this, that in many of the satsangs, especially when we were there in Piercy for 2.5 years, and we had like 3 or 4 classes a day. And so oftentimes what will happen is that in some of the classes, and you know, we didn't have any help, so all the students were doing their own work, cooking, cleaning, we were all doing it ourselves. So everybody was very busy. As soon as the class ended, then people will just go to do their work, whatever their duties were. But once in a while, if your duty was not there, after the class, you will have a satsang with Swamiji. And the typical scene would be that he would, and during the class he's talking. He's explaining all of this, antah pragyam, na bahish pragyam, and so on and so forth. But in the satsang, what was prevalent was silence. And not kind of like an awkward silence, not uncomfortable silence. Except if you had a visitor who's not part of the course. There wasn't somebody who brings in, you know, people brought their own parents or friends or something. And they would come in. It's very interesting to see, because they were not really part of the learning process. And they wanted to come and meet with Swamiji. And Swamiji is not saying anything. He's just sitting there, smiling. And all of us who are students are also sitting there smiling. And the reason is that the exposition of the Atma in the class is with us. And we are just communicating through silence. Swamiji is looking at us, we are looking at Swamiji, nothing is being said. Silence. And the visitors are fidgeting. They are saying, well, nothing is going on here. So they ask some questions to Swamiji. Swamiji, so when did you take sannyasa? So Swamiji says, oh, I took sannyasa, Swami Chinmayanand gave it to me, and so on and so forth. Then that question is over. Silence. Silence. Now I know that many of our visitors and so on, and in fact, very interestingly enough, I would say that many of the times the visitors who were not part of the Vedanta will say, who is this person? He doesn't say much. He doesn't have anything intelligent to say. You don't know. And Swami Maheshananji had said the same thing. I told you about this, that he would have some satsangs. And so these people, one time he went to Punjab and he says, Kuch dasso, tell us something. So Swamiji said, well, I am saying something, but you don't get it. So this is what is called Lakshana Vritti, Avyapadeshyam. So the meaning of the word Vyapadeshyam means a positive Shakti Vritti. It's not possible. And why is it not possible? Because it could be shunyam, as the Buddhists say, that you do not have So in the not all Buddhists, from the what we understand is there's some confusion in their thinking that when you reduce everything to mithya, they feel nothing is left. It is shunyam. No, nothing is not left. When you take out all of the activity, it goes back to the very into the very basis of it. So Buddhists also give the example of the snake and rope. So they say that the whole world is like viewing a snake into a rope. And this is just a make-believe, and all you have to do is just remove your thinking from the world, and then you will be okay. So we said no, because a faulty vision of a snake resolves into something which is left. You cannot say nothing is left. Mithya cannot exist without satyam. It's not shunyam. So that is what the positive enunciation of the Upanishad starts with. Ekatma pratyaya saram. So now everything has now been negated. Anta pragyam na bahish pragyam na ubeta pragyam na apragyam, etc. Everything is gone. Avyapadeshyam adrishtam avyavaharyam alakshanam achintyam. What is left is ekatma pratyaya saram. And this is the goal that we have. This is the discovery of the water. And we are so involved as playing with each other as waves and so on and so forth. And then we start to, when the life starts to really threaten us, we get worried. That what's happening to me? Where are we going? What's all of this? Did it say? You please see that even while you are like a foam, even while you are moving around in droplets, and all of that, you are nothing but water. In Mandukya Upanishad, another example is given. That, for example, when the fire is well lit, it comes out with all these kinds of, I don't know the English word for it, chingari. What is the word for what is the English word for chingari? Sparks, yes. So you have all these sparks that come out of the water. And they make sound, and they have a very fleeting life. But they are nothing but they're nothing but fire alone. They go back, they came out of the fire, they'll go back to the fire. So that water, that fire is called ekatma pratyaya saram. And so what that means is that this is this pratyaya. Pratyaya means all of the flow of thoughts, flow of activity. The one thing which you cannot disturb is I am. I am conscious and I am. And when we first look at it, we say, that's it? I've been coming to these classes and I had great hopes, and I was thinking this is the best thing and this, that, or the other, and all you're telling me is that the essence of the whole life is I am? One doesn't realize, if you have a thinking like that, if anybody has a thinking like that, that this is enormous. Because I am, and I am conscious, the implication of that is unthinkable. Just think about it. It's unthinkable, and you think about it. That I am is an independent entity, Swatasiddham. Implications are nothing disturbs me. I remember when I started thinking about it, one of the first things we said is, but don't I need food? No. Atma doesn't need food. Jivatma needs food to survive, but Atma doesn't need food. It doesn't need anything. It is just is. And it is conscious. It's not as though it is in coma. Because the person in coma is also is, but he's not conscious of himself or herself. I don't want that kind of an existence. I am conscious of the fact that I am. And also I am Ananda, Anantam. So when all of the things resolve into this, this becomes the next one, prapancha upashamam. Ekatma pratyayasaram prapancha upashamam. So prapancha upashamam, we've already talked about it now in this class, which is all the activities, the sparks flying out of it, the waves, and so on and so forth. When all of that is removed, our issue is that we are so used to playing on the surface with meaningless things, and so enamored by it, and so controlled by it, that it is difficult for us to do two things. One is to give all of that up, remove my drishti from the surface things, and the other one is to appreciate the ekatma pratyayasaram, because I feel, this is the fun of my teaching you, because it's not as though I am completely different from you. I go through the same thinking. Maybe I'm half a step maybe ahead of you because I've had a long history of learning. But it's the same thing for everyone. And here I bring it up is that one of the things holding us back from really understanding this is that I cannot visualize that I have no form. I'm kind of like afraid of that, because I equate the lack of form by having nothingness. So I want to be someone. So here, in our acharyas and our shastras says, listen, here is the problem. You cannot be what you want without being formless. What do you mean by that? You cannot be what you want without being formless? Because I want infinity. And I cannot stand being limited. I want unlimitedness. And in the example we are familiar with, that I visualize myself to be a room space. And I always think in terms of my personality, which is the room space has a certain personality to it. And I'm not completely satisfied with my personality, but I'm okay with it. This is who I am. I have 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor, And yeah, some of it is deteriorating. I want it to be well made. And it would be much better if I'm Carnegie Hall or the California Theater. Beautiful. What a lovely thing. This is what I want to be in my next life. This is okay, but this is nothing special. So I always visualize myself. I cannot see the Swarupa. I only see myself as a Swabhava, as a personality. And so Vedanta says, listen, don't you see? Okay, what is it that you want? I want to have a big personality. So what do you mean by you have a big personality? I want to be the biggest room there is in the whole world. Hey, I went to this the San Jose Gurudwara. I don't know if has anybody gone to the San Jose Gurudwara?
Yeah.
That place is huge. I mean, I sat there and I said, oh my goodness. I think they have 1,500 people that can go in there. And they're probably, that's not the biggest room. They're probably, you can have a contest. You can say which is the biggest room. And you can have rooms that are, you know, these stadiums that are like 30,000. So I want to be somebody like that. And then you say, well, okay, but you know, this is what happens. So you make yourself, you declare this is the biggest, you know, just like the tallest building, skyscraper. So similarly, you can say, I am the biggest in the whole world. And somebody says, oh yeah, I am designing something which is 30% bigger than that. This is what happens in China now. China wants to be the biggest of everything in the world. So you do that and say, how much do you want to be? I want to be as big as possible. Don't you want to be the biggest ever? Yes. You already are that. You are the total space. So in this, I have difficulty. Why? Because I only visualize myself as a formful space. This is exactly our situation. We hesitate to take the steps because Vedanta says the Atma is all over and it is shapeless. It is formless. And my mind doesn't allow me to even go there. And yet I fall back on my sense of limitation, which I don't accept. I don't accept that. So I keep on looking for it, but finally I have this is what the Antakarana Shuddhi is. With the fineness of my thinking, I need to accept the fact that I am already formless. My identity should be to Paramatma, which is formless. Instead, I'm clinging on to the Jivatma, which is formful, but also limited. So this is the meaning of the word prapancha upashamam, where there is no activity, no prapancha. There's no form. It is the very basis of all the forms, as we saw in the Vivarta Upadana Karanam. And I need to just focus in on not the prapancha, but the cessation of prapancha. How long should I do it? So Maheshwaraji says that until I am shantam. I am shantam. Shantam doesn't mean that I don't have any thoughts. So this is the important thing to see. Thoughts may be there, doesn't matter. but it does not disturb the intrinsic peace of the Atma. Shantam. So this is the end point of the Prapancha Upashamam. This Shantam in the classical Vedanta is called Shivam. Shivam. So Shivam is the very purity, the very non-attachment, the very peacefulness of the Atma. This is Shivam. This is Shivam. So here, Swami Maheshananji actually gives us sort of like a side commentary. Maybe it'd be interesting for you to see that. So in the side commentary of the word Shivam, yeah. So Shivam is the Prapancha Rahitam, Adhishthanam, the very basis of, it's kind of like the very substance of the whole creation is Shivam, which you and I are already. We don't understand it. We think Shivam is some deity that I have to propitiate myself with. But as the, this is the interesting thing, is that even if I look upon Ishvara as a separate entity from me, I'm creating a problem for both myself and Ishvara. Why? Because I am not willing to give up my limitation, and I am not willing to give Ishvara infinity. Just look at this. See, because when I say Ishvara is not me, because when we say that, you are really Ishvara. Don't you think you are Ishvara? Ishvara means Brahman. And say, no, don't insult Brahman. I've got a lot of problems. I don't think Ishvara has those kinds of things. He's not me. You ask anybody else, are you Ishvara? This is not me. Have you seen anybody in Milpitas? I haven't seen him. That means we are limiting him away from us. So that means we do not give infinity as the definition of Ishvara. And I don't give infinity to myself as a jiva. We are creating a false boundary between the two of them. But Shivam is really already there, but not appreciated. The space is already there, but the infinity nature of space is not appreciated. That's all. That's the very nature of the whole creation. So, Shivam. So now Swami Maheshananji gives a very interesting side commentary on this word Shiva. Okay? So he says that what happens is that in the whole creation there are twin things. One is the material and the other one is the intelligence. So the material is called Upadana Karanam, as you know, and the intelligence is also there as the very Nimitta Karanam. So in this Trinity, there is a Trinity, Triratna, consisting of Shiva, Vishnu, and Shakti. Is another way of looking at our Trinity. We always look at the Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Shiva. But this is another way of looking at it. So in the classical Vedanta, in the Vedic thinking, Shiva has both of them not apart from himself. Upadana Karanam is called Vishnu. And Shakti, and sometimes in the Puranas, the Vishnu is also has the Shakti embedded in himself. So, for example, he says that in some Puranas, the Vishnu also appears as Mohini Avatara, who has Shakti in it itself. But generally speaking, in our enunciation of Vedanta, these three are kept different aspects of itself. Shiva as the very Adhisthana, Vishnu as the Upadana Karanam, and also the master of Maya, because the only way you can create something is through Maya. So both the Shakti and the Upadana Karanam are resident in Shiva, and they are non-separate from it. Non-separate from it is just a way of looking at it. So anyway, this is the side commentary that Swami Maheshananji had given. And he supports it by saying, Yajño vai Vishnuhu. So this is a Shruti Vakya called Yajño vai Vishnuhu. Yajñaha is the Upadana Karanam, is the material cause of it, is Vishnu. And then all things, as you might think that, my God, Vishnu is separate from Shiva and Mohini is separate from the Shaktis. The next word is Advaitam. Advaitam. It is the same. The Upadana Karanatvam, the Shakti and all of that, Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam Parameshwaram. Advaitam. And so the implication of that is that really, if you look at even from a jiva like you and I standpoint, there also the surface activities that we were talking about earlier are nothing but my ability to have a form, to have some experiences, and they are non-separate from me as the Shivam. So it is not just has to be taken at the macrocosmic level. This is true even at a microcosmic level. And in the microcosmic level also I have the Sukshma Sharira, the Sthula Sharira, the Karana Sharira, the various experiences. All these are nothing but dancing on the surface. And the dancing on the surface is non-separate from me. I am the one who is the dreamer. I am the one who is the waker. But the waking and the dreaming are not intrinsic to me. So, for example, in the case of water, the water doesn't have to have waves. Surf and all the surface activity doesn't have to have it. It just sits there, Shantam Shivam. But if there are any activities, that also is separate from the water. I remember Swami Tattvavidananda, he had given this beautiful example. He says one time he was invited to a dancer, very famous male dancer in Hyderabad somewhere. And he said he heard a lot about him and that, he was really looking forward to seeing him and so on. So before that, there was a kind of like a dinner or lunch where Swamiji was invited, and Swamiji was also going to give a talk on it and so on. So he says that we were having dinner together, and then somebody introduced this person sitting next to him. He said, Swamiji, you know who that is? Swamiji says, no. He was just sitting there eating and, and so on. He says, he's the dancer who's going to perform today. Swamiji says, oh, that's wonderful. That's very nice, wonderful. Swamiji didn't realize that in half hour after the dinner was over, while the talk was going on, this guy had gone into the dressing room and put on this costume, looking completely different. Then he started dancing. Swamiji says, I was amazed at his skill. What a beautiful dance that he made. But he says, sitting there eating with me, I could not visualize that this simple person who was just wearing ordinary clothes and so on and not saying much, just eating and so on and so forth, had this capability. I remember Swamiji's lecture at that time. So he said, we are like that. That at this point we are just simple moving around. I am so and so, I'm 60 years old, this, that, or the other. Our skills, our ability are so enormous. We had no idea until you inquire into it. So this is the Mahima of the Jivat, of the Paramatma. And so I will end at this point. I want to make sure this Ramananji has enough time. So we're pretty much done with this verse, except for Chaturtham Manyante. So there's some more commentary on that I would prefer to spend a few more minutes on. Not very much, maybe 5 minutes. We've already done the analysis of Sa Atma Sa Vijñeya. If you recall, what I said there was, and this is the explanation given here, this is worth knowing. Sa Atma Sa Vijñeya means it should be known. Atma are Shrotavyaha Mantavyaha Nididhyasitavyaha. So Tavya Pratyaya is used. So Tavya Pratyaya is used for saying, you've got to do this. Kartavyaha. This is your duty to do things. Here, the Tavya Pratyaya is not used, but in the sense, you've got to appreciate it. This is the thing to know. In our lives, we are only dancing on the surface. Don't recognize the profundity of the Atma, the timelessness, the fact that death cannot touch me. This is not an ordinary thing. We can't even visualize it. Immediately our mind starts to doubt it and say, no, I don't know, these are just words. But if I can get a glimpse of it, and then pursue it, and then see it for myself. So this is what is called Saha Vijñeya. So with that, this important verse is over. I may have a few more other things that I may want to just comment on it based on this very extensive, I think Swami Maheswaranji has spent I think I was telling you about 50, 60 pages on this verse. And we've only done 8 or 10 of them. So I may not go through the complete detail. We'll go over to the Karika. We have a lot to cover. And Karika will go into the details of this. But otherwise, this is the key verse of the whole Mandukya. And so we are almost done with that. With that, I'll close today's session. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः सर्वे सन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सत्कमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. So Ramananji, what I was hoping that I think that when we sent this